Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to continue on and finish up this week's theme of short songs, looking at two tracks from an artist. Both tracks must be shorter than 3 minutes and 30 seconds. We're looking at an artist today that I've never even heard of in passing, which is always really exciting to me. Usually, I get a gist, even if I haven't heard anything from the artist before, based on what they're compared to and stuff, I know what to expect. But when it's brand new, I've never heard anyone talk about it, I go in with zero expectations. We're going to be looking at the artist Sekihan, something off of their album, The Show. In fact, I think both of the tracks come off of this album today. We're going to start off with the track Tarachine Machine. Although I am seeing it's 2 seconds over. How did that one slip by? It's just 2 seconds. Let's roll. Maybe it's 2 seconds of silence. Trying to make myself feel a little bit better about this oversight. Let's dive into this, see what's going on.
So here we go!
Dude, what is this? Huge shit. What in the world? Big tempo change. Back to the opening.
So here we go!
Yeah.
So come on, after time. Ha! This answer sound on. And now down how good. Just the eye eternity. Oh, yeah. No, okay. So like wow, wow, wow. Oh, yeah. No, okay. So like wow, wow, wow. And ride the track, wow, wow, wow. Oh, yeah. No, okay. So like wow, wow, wow. My vision later.
Okay, so like a verse, pre-chorus, chorus idea. Oh, okay, so we have 4 sections then. Intro, new metal, ballad, ska.
Okay.
I wish I had more time today. Part of me says, why not just make this an album review? Dang, I might actually. 18 minutes. It's an EP. We're going to be listening to 7 of those minutes already. I think if we had started on track 1, I'd say screw it. Make it an album review. But as it is, we're going to be checking out tracks 3 and 4 of 5. That sounds like a weird place to start the album afterwards. Like I said, if I had more time too, like if this was the first thing I recorded today, like knew I was doing it, carve out some extra time for it. Anyways, I'm here for this, dude. This is phenomenal. It's punky, funky, pop, rock, ska with new metal in there. It's a little bit of everything, and it's just a blast, honestly. Oh, this is brand new too. December 25th is when this came out, so a month and a half ago. This is so fun. It's so difficult not to move along to this. The production on this is fantastic. The instrumental choice on this is fantastic. The variety of vocals are very cool. The way it bounces around it's tough to follow. Absolutely. This is full of jarring shifts, but it's like a fun house. Around every corner, you have no idea what you're about to experience, and it's going to catch you off guard, but you're going to enjoy yourself through it. It is a disjointed track. I don't know what a Tarachine is, so I guess I'm going to have to look that up. But we are looking at something machine-like. It is in the title, Tarachine Machine. Maybe it's a eclectic machine full of gears that don't work well with each other, like the opposite of clockwork. Although on the other side, if you take each of these 4 individual moments, what's happening in those sections is working together very well. It's just the transition between those that's not even off-putting, just harsh, jagged. Absolutely bonkers. I had no idea what I was getting in store for, and dude, I enjoyed this one. Let's dive in. Let's see if we can break this down. There are 4 sections to this track. The structure to this is A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. That is it. I don't know if there's any differences in the lyrics. That's always a possibility. But as far as I can tell, the first minute 45 is mostly identical to the second group of a minute 45. Just kind of play the whole song again. The transitions are the same. The order is the same. We do have a little bit of a change on the outro, the final 10 or 15 seconds of the song, so that instead of going back to A, we actually finalize the music. But aside from that, almost all of this sounds identical to me, which is really interesting because they go for linear, A, B, C, D, and then they choose not to commit to that. They want something cyclical, but it's not a super familiar cyclical. I mean, even when we got the A and the B section, I had picked up, oh, we're back to the intro right here. And the B section is that new metal part, which just love that part. I was still wondering, where are they going to go with this? And, we've got the ballad, and then we got the ska section. They wrapped the song up. So they ended up doing the exact same thing, but there was no way for me to anticipate that. Yeah, we had repeated 2 sections, but are we going to stick with that? I don't have a pattern to say at this point. So I found that to be really fun. It throws a lot of information at you in a very short amount of time, and then you get a chance to revisit all of it. With still a little bit of wonder, but also a little bit more knowledge. Cyclical, but linear. And I dig that. I guess it's linear and cyclical. Not really a but an and. The instrumentation on this is wild. We do have electric guitars. We have bass. We have vocals. We have drums. We also have pianos. We have multiple vocalists. We have trumpets and trombones, maybe? There is a lower brass in here that sounded different than trumpets do on a lower pitch, but I suppose there's also the chance that it's an electronic trumpet, in which case you can artificially create lower pitches, and then you're going to have some timbral differences there. It didn't really sound like a trombone to me, which is the only reason I'm bringing up this possibility at all. I'm not sure what the instrument was. Regardless, there's a lot going on. We also have some clean electric, we have some distorted electric, we have harshes in here. It's all over the place, and it is incredibly infectious around every corner. We kick the song off, and it's kind of jazzy. We got some cool piano runs in there. The harmonic styling is like a jazz rock combo, a little bit of that jazz fusion going on. You can feel some rock heartbeat to it, but it has jazzy movements within the rockier chord progressions, where like leading tones end up being jazzier, but the core chord progression is rockier. So that's pretty neat. Like jazzy embellishment. I think that's a good way to describe it. I don't think I'd call any of this jazz music, but there are jazzy embellishments to the non-jazz music across the entire board, because the first section's jazzy, but also the ballad section features quite a bit of jazzy piano work in there too, even though I would think I would lean that a little bit more towards pop music in general. But we have trumpets in here, and they're just, they got these really tight rhythmic blasty bits, sort of like string stingers, but on brass. We call them brass blasters. That's terrible. Don't call them that. But it's like super syncopated, and we're going to touch on that later because the rhythmic syncopation is huge on this track. We get to the nu metal section, and this kind of gets rid of some of the ornamental parts, sticks to a more traditional rock band. We got harsh vocals in here, distorted guitars, we got loud drums. Also in the other section, we have two types of clean vocals in there, so that allows us to have some counterpoint, some playfulness as they dance around each other's lines. We come out of this though, and we have a huge tempo shift. We slow things down, more ballad-like. We got the piano, very light drumming. We got the feminine clean vocals in here. Very light section overall. And then we head into the ska section, which brings back some of the brass instrumentation. There's some electronic parts in here too. They might have been in some of the other places, but it's just so much density of sound, I might have missed them. They're synth pads though, just holding out tones, creating this electronic fuzziness behind everything. The brass are back though. They're bouncy, they're playful. The tempo, we increase it quite a bit. I think this is the fastest section of the track. It's just, it is chaotic to quickly move between these. As I mentioned, this track is 3 minutes and 30 seconds long. You cut that in half, you get 1:45 for each group of 4. You divide that by 4 and you're looking at less than 30 seconds per section. That's how quickly we're moving through ideas. You don't even get half of a minute with each section before you're thrust into a wildly different concept altogether. The only thing that most of this shares is energy. Aside from the ballad section, everything is forward momentum, driving, bouncy, punchy, layered, bright, vibrant. That the ballad section gives us a moment's pause, but as we saw, on average, less than 30 seconds. We don't spend a lot of time in there at all. Now this is, though, very bouncy, very punchy, very rhythmically syncopated. Right from the start, we already have these really sharp stingers coming at us from the brass. It's creating syncopation against the backbeat. The drum work here is crazy, giving us the backbeat and some syncopation. I didn't get a chance to really dive into what the two vocals were doing rhythmically. I just really remember that they were there. One was working with shorter staccato tones, the other one with longer legato tones. And that was a nice contrast on that area. There's also the contrast of range there too, but I don't remember like the rhythmic, too much of the rhythmic devices there against the backbeat. But then we get to the nu metal section and you get that ba 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 da ba da ba da ba da, and it's just like dude, it is infectious. The energy here is palpable. And of course, it's all being screamed too. And the entire band really is in on this same rhythmic device. It's not about syncopation on layers. It's about the entire band working within a single rhythmic framework. And it's just, dude, so good. Then we move to the ballad section, which lightens things up across the board, which includes rhythmic elements. We don't have too many things in here that really focus on this sort of pulsating, driving rhythmic device. But then we push into the next section, we ramp the tempo way up, and we return back to a lot of syncopated ideas from the bass, from the guitars, from the drums, and from the brass once again. And I feel like almost the entirety of this song is dancey, but it's also incredibly jarring because alongside these rhythmic shifts, which 3 of the 4 sections are very rhythmically syncopated, they also have their own rhythmic devices to them. They're all unique in how they are bouncy or headbangy or danceable or whatever you want to describe it as. But also every section on this track has its own tempo too. So you're continuously thrown around as the song speeds up and slows down without any warning. Although we did have that one retardando in there as we were faster, and then we gradually slowed down for the ballad section. I don't remember that happening the second time through. I think that was only on the first time through. But I could be wrong on that. But I thought that was very clean, and as jarring as this entire thing was, it was like being in, I don't know, a clothes dryer and just like tumbling and being thrown around with no control of your environment. That was a moment where I was like, oh, y'all are foreshadowing where we're going, we're slowing down, and then we land in a slower section, and now we're here. You can actually go with the flow on that. I enjoyed the moments of control that happened there. The rest of the track, though, just is bonkers. I wish I had more depth to talk about on this one. The drum part is wildly frantic. The bass jumps between walking bass lines, funky ideas, and some more straightforward ones like the nu metal section where it lines up with everyone else. The vocals varied, 2 cleans at least. There's a harsh in there too. Maybe gang vocals on the nu metal section. I vaguely remember hearing 2 quasi-harsh. One was definitely harsh. I'm not sure about the other one, but it added more width to it at the very least. It's just, there's so much happening all the time. It's impossible to pick it all up on a first listen, but I'll tell you, I got the gist of it. There is no way to listen to this and not understand it is about having a fun time. Maybe not lyrically, maybe that's not their intentions, but musically, this is just a blast. Speaking about lyrics, let me go see if I can find some, and we'll discuss that and how it pairs with the music. Fortunately, I couldn't find any. I checked the usual places. I assume that this is not in English based on what I heard, so I went and checked some of the usual places where I look for translated lyrics as well. I can't find anything. Lots of news articles about this album coming out, this artist in general, but nothing about the lyrics. So we're going to press on then. The next track that was requested is called Apokali, or maybe Apokali. Let's dive into it, see what's going on there. What is that tone? So much buzz. Okay, high and then low. Yeah. main electronic riff. I love the sound of it. Tell me that's a kazoo. Tell me that's a kazoo. There was a trumpet supporting it really low in the mix, doing the same melody. But I think that was a kazoo at top. The halftime chorus. So I want to rewind this just a second. With that bump bump ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum, that synthesizer line, there's also another sound off on the left that sounds like a Vocaloid. I want to see if anyone else hears this as well. That's really interesting. I think that's one of the cooler things, the cooler situations I've seen. I don't know if it is a Vocaloid. It could just be the main singer taking specific syllables, chopping them up, and using them as samples, and that's what's giving us our really harsh cutoffs to these words. Really, really sharp attacks, very sharp cutoffs on each of the syllables, not words. Because it's more like an like maybe they are words in whatever language this is in, but because of the very sharp endings and beginnings of each syllable, they kind of just sound like phonetic sounds rather than full fluid words. So maybe it is just the vocalist, though. I'm going to call it a Vocaloid, though, right here because of the end result, the way that it sounds to me. But I think that's very cool because every single time y'all have shown me Vocaloid music, the Vocaloid is the lead vocalist. It's not a supporting instrument. And I think it works really well here in the background as a supporting instrument to not just be by itself doing a melody as part of this larger ensemble of sounds, but also to be texture layering with another instrument, the synthesizer that's been playing this main melody this entire time. Sounds pretty cool. It also sounds very 90s. I don't know how many of y'all had an older keyboard and they would have samples or I guess patches. Instead of picking trumpet or guitar or piano for the sound it would make, it would be like a human voice and it would just be like, oh, 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 oh. It'd be like this very synthesized voice sound. And it would only have one phonetic sound per, I mean, sometimes it'd be E's and Ah's, but you wouldn't be able to mix them. And that's kind of what it reminds me of. Very classic synthesized voice sound. Which again, if they're doing that by chopping up the main vocals, the main vocalist and creating a sample out of, you know, their more normal singing voice, that's even cooler. So I don't know, I'm all over that. It's a very cool texture to use in here, and I think it matches the fun vibes that most of this has. And on that note of fun vibes, I do think that a lot of my appreciation and understanding of this song is fairly close to what I talked about in the previous track. It is a very bouncy song, a lot of rhythmic syncopation in here that uses both a combination of electronic and rock sounds in order to create some, no. I was going to add jazz in there, but not so much on this one. The bass is doing some cool stuff. It's not just typical pedal tone rock stuff, but it's not necessarily jazzy. So we're mixing these two sounds though, while still keeping a pretty straightforward rock beat throughout all of it. It has a nice, it's not necessarily 4 on the floor, but it does emphasize downbeats in order to create the backbone for the syncopation, which makes it dancey and easy to follow. And it is just fun to listen to, fun to move and groove to. And the fun little bits of contrast too, like in that first opening verse, we had the lower energy for a little bit into the higher energy for a little bit into the lower energy. That's just a really fun idea, and for whatever reason, that specific moment reminded me of System of a Down. Not any specific song that I could think of off the top of my head, but that was the first band that popped into my head. They also like to do fun tracks with a lot of dynamic writing. So maybe that's the minimum I need to make a comparison to that group. But it is an incredibly fun song with a lot of layers and a nice mix of electronic and rock ideas. But this song does deviate quite a bit from that. We don't have too many jarring changes on this one, and it follows more of a typical verse-chorus pattern than the A, B, C, D, and then repeat concept we saw on the previous track. We have a very clear verse and chorus on this one. We have a bit of a bridge, which feels more of like an extension of the verse. It was the kazoo solo. Kazoo. Can't believe there's a kazoo in this track, or something sounding kazoo-like. It's very buzzy, and I don't know, it has that kazoo timbre to it. So you could easily synthesize that, I'm sure. But it sounds like a kazoo. Anyways, though, we have a verse-chorus structure, we have a bridge, we wrap the song up on another, at least a chorus. Maybe there was a verse there as well, I don't remember. More straightforward of an idea here. We also don't have too much brass. We have a little bit of it. I mentioned that on the kazoo solo, there is a trumpet that sits way low in the mix underneath it, playing the exact same melody. So you get that nice timbre layering of the two, but the trumpet's nowhere near in the spotlight. It's very much in a supporting role for this. But yeah, this I think is still very fun. Still quite enjoyable, but less fresh to my ears. Though I do enjoy the main melody on the synthesizer. I can't place it though. I can't place what culture this melody would come from. It's not a Western melody because the note choices specifically, while they could show up in a pentatonic scale, it's just not one that's commonly used. So I'm kind of curious. I'm assuming this is a Japanese group. Maybe it's a traditional Japanese scale being used there. Regardless, I do think it's pretty cool because most of the rest of this track and most of the rest of the other track have a very Western 12-tone idea to it as far as the electronic, the funk, and jazz, which are very Western styles of music. Even rock music, I think rock music was derived in the way, yeah, because it's based off of blues, yeah, and rock and roll, okay. Yeah, so a lot of Western influences on both of these tracks, but then we get that more, I'm going to say Eastern just because I don't know what region it comes from. It could be any culture. But it is an influence outside of the West that I think is pretty cool to be added in here. And it fits in so naturally, too. And of course, being paired with the synthesized tones it matches the energy and vibe of everything else, even though harmonically it's a bit different from everything else in the song. I wish I could get more emotional information out of it though. I think there's so much about the chord progression being hidden by the atmosphere, the texture, all the surface level stuff here, the rhythmic devices. Everything about this is fun, but do we really have a fun chord progression going on these tracks? My gut says yes, but honestly, I couldn't tell you the chord progression if I wanted to right now. It's just not something I paid too much attention to. I soaked in the vibes, which the chord progression is part of, but it's so difficult to pay attention to them when there's so many other layers of change happening across these tracks. That would be something for a second time listen, I suppose. I quite enjoyed this though. I will probably get around to finishing this EP tomorrow morning. And when I do, I'll put a pinned comment at the top of this one for anyone who's curious about my thoughts on the remaining 10 minutes of music. I quite enjoyed this though, and certainly want to hear the rest of it. And I guess I got to dig more into Sekihan as an artist, the rest of their discography, because this is incredibly fun. Maybe not something that I endlessly spin, but something that I would want to go through their whole discography at least once just to experience it, because this is kind of eclectic. It's all over the place. And I'm enjoying it just as a way to put a smile on my face and have a good time. These then are my thoughts on Apokali and Tarachine Machine by Sekihan. What do you think of these songs? Did you enjoy them? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on these tracks? Let me know. Put all of that and anything else you'd like to add into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.